Let's speak now to Mr. Oladende Ario, a security expert who joins us live here in the Lagos studios. Good morning. Thank you for your time and nice to see you again. The situation that most people would see now is that after the novelty of the first few days of war off, we seem to have settled into a pattern. Today, Ukraine makes a few advances. Tomorrow, Russia counters, and so on. Do you think that people are moving on away from this and are accepting this as just one of the other things that has happened again?
Well, I won't even be bothered about what the people are thinking now. My position is, what is United Nations doing about all of these things? Because initially, I thought it was about Putin trying to give the Ukrainian president a knock on the head, and ask him to fall into line. But as it is now, it has become like an annihilation, a plan to totally eradicate, or if not obliterate, Ukrainian from the face of the world. And for me, the fact that other nations now, NATO, are now beginning to support Ukraine to fight back, may prolong the war. At the end of the day, of course, both sides will suffer casualties, but Ukraine stands to suffer a lot more. And after all of this is settled, because one day it will be settled, will UN still have the voice to address global issues, especially when it comes to confrontation between two countries? Since this thing started, I refuse to call it war. It's an invasion, and it's unprovoked, because Russia has not exhausted the channels of discussion before going this route. And unfortunately, it's lasted for far more than anybody projected.
Indeed. But now, I'm happy you mentioned the United Nations and what it could or couldn't do. It seems as if the United Nations at this point, after the UN Secretary General had attempted to broker some kind of truce, he went to Moscow and then he went to Kiev to try to see if he could talk to both leaders. That didn't seem to have gained much traction.
He didn't cut any eyes.
He's moved on. Why do you think he didn't cut any eyes? Maybe I should start with that.
Now, how was UN regarded prior to this war by Putin? Did he see UN as a global body that could rein him in when necessary? Now, if I was the UN Secretary, I wouldn't go to Putin. The Chinese president seems to have some relationship with Putin. Perhaps if pressure has been put on him to go speak to his friend, maybe we won't be where we are. You understand me? You don't have to physically, get involved yourself. You can solve the problem using indirect means of allying with the man and then let him see reason. When you say you are bombing buildings, you are killing people. People who didn't know anything about what is happening. Some of them are stark illiterates who knew nothing. They just woke up and saw that their buildings were going down, neighbors were dying, meaning if they stayed any minute longer, it could be their turn. Humanity has grown beyond that crude 16th century level. That's where we are now, and that's my problem.
It does seem as if, of course, there are, of my last guest, we were talking about unintended consequences. Because
usually,
those who knew nothing about it.
In war situations, there must be collateral damages, and as you said, unintended consequences.
One of those unintended consequences, as far as I would say, and as far as many Nigerians, of which you are one and I am one, would say is the issue of food. Nigeria, in spite of everything we've said, we still import virtually everything that we eat. So immediately, wheat was cut off, soy oil was cut off. The cost of bread.
Went up.
So I'm wondering if this provides us with an opportunity internally
to wake up
and make some adjustments.
My brother, even before this, we've had circumstances that were strong enough to have shaken the nation of Nigeria. But we seem immune from everything that should wake us up. It's like we took some strong sedative, and right now we are still sleeping. Ukraine and Russia, they are so far away from here. It's not a day journey. And then they had problems there, and immediately started having impact. My neighbor has a bakery not too far from here. She's been complaining to me every day. Why? Because up north, where they were getting wheat, the kidnapping, terrorism stuff there made that impossible. The reliance on wheat from Ukraine has also not been made possible. You can imagine the effect on employment here, availability of food even here. I just hope that as we are inching towards a new election, those jostling for power, we have it at the back of their mind that we really need to get it right as far as agriculture is concerned. Enough of game playing, enough of mounting slogans that don't mean anything. We've had OFN, Green Revolution, and all of that. Where are those ones led us? This should be our wake-up time. And if we don't wake up now, next time around, it might be worse than this.
It might be worse, and it might become something completely different.
Because whether you like it or not, we're already facing food insecurity in Nigeria.
Given that scenario, and if you look at it, some people will say, okay, well, if you've talked about it and you look at it up to that point and you see that, okay, look, this is affecting people who had nothing to do with it. That then brings up what you started off with, which is the issue of peace. Yeah. Peace talks, bringing this to the negotiating table, taking a look at all the avenues that could be used. Have we passed that? Is it possible that we've passed that and that nobody can talk to anybody about peace?
This is not a marriage between man and a woman, okay, which will always end in divorce when sanity could no longer prevail. But in this case, there's still a point, a channel through which common sense should be allowed to prevail. Because at the end of the day, even if Russia eventually succeeds in taking over the entire Ukrainian land, they will still have to touch some people on ground. So it will still be the same thing. Because they cannot continue this way. They don't want to wipe out the entire Ukrainian people. And if they do, other countries bordering Ukraine, Poland and all of them, how safe are they? I visited Damascus after the destruction, and I was shocked at what I saw. And it will take centuries now to rebuild what has been destroyed. Now, Ukraine may even take much longer. So the earlier common sense, because that's the word now, it doesn't need any majestic thinking or strategy to know, oh, we are creating carnage, we are creating problems for humanity, and let's stop this thing. The earlier that is brought to bear, the best for the entire world. Because there's hardly a country or a community of people that's not affected. But I know that it will happen. How, when, by who? That's what I don't know now.
Because that was going to be actually my last question.
But who
can do it? Who can bring them to the table?
I had my mind on the Chinese president. So much, considering that they've had a long-standing rapport with Putin. Why is no longer moving quickly to stem the tide is what I don't know. Maybe they had their conversations and they said, look, let me deal with them a little bit more. Forgetting that it's also suffering casualties. So it's not a one-way thing. Both of them are getting pummeled. So
yeah, because Ukraine is not facing Russia alone.
No, they have supporters.
They have supporters as well.
And then those backers, it was a case of the Goliath and David thing. You know, they saw, the aggressor in Putin, and they were like, no, we will not fold our arms and allow you to ruin our friend or our ally. So I don't know, because it looks only for me now. Maybe if they can go and beg the man in Korea to step in, they might have a common front and be able to end. Otherwise, you and I can go and talk to him in the African way. It's looking very dicey and very bad.
Indeed.
Because the history of mankind is being rewritten that in 21st century, a nation could just wake up and begin to battle with another country without provocation. Whatever it was, it shouldn't have, it hasn't gone beyond the level of conversation. And in all wars, after all the killing, the destructions, they still come back to the table to discuss peace.
Indeed. Mr. Olade, thank you so much for your perspective this morning.
I look forward to having you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed myself.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.